Imagine an employee who works 24/7, makes thousands of decisions a minute, negotiates refunds, and qualifies sales leads. Now imagine this employee doesn't legally exist. If they lie to a customer, you go to court. If they burn your budget, you take the hit. Welcome to the era of the AI agent.
So the hard question for every enterprise is, who owns the crash?
Welcome back. This is another episode of the CRM Position Podcast. Today we are diving deep into, well, probably the single biggest governance challenge facing every leader in CRM and AI. And it is structural. We're moving past assisted intelligence, tools that just make humans faster.
Right, that was the old paradigm.
We're moving into something entirely new. Agentic intelligence. I mean, this is it. It's the great decoupling of cognition from biological labor.
And that transition, it completely breaks the foundational assumptions of enterprise accountability. It really does. Historically, when you build automation, the human defined the entire deterministic path.
You told it exactly what to do, step by step.
Exactly. But now, with these modern agents, the human, you only define the high-level goal. The system instruction, the agent, it autonomously owns the path. And it does that through emergent probabilistic execution.
Which means your classic responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, your RCI models, they're just instantly obsolete.
Gone.
You can no longer audit the process, can you? Because the process is emergent. If the agent creates 50 steps to achieve a goal and none of them are predefined, how do you even assign the responsible party?
You can't. It's impossible. And that's why you have to shift your entire governance model away from process auditing, checking the steps, to strictly outcome auditing.
So just checking the results against a policy limit.
That's all you have left.
Okay, let's unpack this core crisis. We're calling this decision ownership collapse.
Right.
In simple terms, what does that actually mean?
It's when the authority to commit resources, to alter data, to basically bind the enterprise in a transaction is delegated entirely to a machine.
Okay, the machine gets the power.
The machine gets the power, but the legal and financial liability for those actions, that remains strictly and solely with the human enterprise, with you.
And the root cause for this is, it's architectural, right? This isn't a bug.
No, it's a feature. It leads directly to what we're labeling the black box governance gap. Enterprise automation used to be if-then logic. If X, then Y. You could trace the logic tree, find the mistake, fix the code.
It was predictable.
Completely. But agentic AI running on these new architectures, like the Atlas reasoning engine, it just abandons that rigidity. The agent's path is reasoned at runtime based on high-dimensional vector math. It's essentially just finding the most probable next step.
And this is where the governance gap just cracks wide open. An auditor can't check the code to predict what the agent will do.
Because its actions are emergent. They haven't been written yet.
Right. So when that agent chooses a path that is, say, mathematically valid but strategically a total disaster,
yeah,
maybe offering some unprecedented discount to save a customer, ownership just collapses.
It collapses because no human authorized that specific path. No one even predicted it.
And that collapse gets amplified by what you're calling the liability squeeze.
Yes. And if you look closely at your master services agreements, the MSAs with the vendors, you'll see it in black and white. AI vendors have very successfully bifurcated liability.
How so?
They indemnify the code, the intellectual property itself, but the customer, you explicitly, contractually own the outcomes.
So you own the configuration, the specific prompts, the data the agent uses?
All of it.
Wait, hold on. Are you suggesting that vendors have zero accountability if their faulty code is what causes the agent to hallucinate? That seems like an almost unbearable asymmetry. We get the autonomy, but we also get all the risk.
That's precisely it. You bear 100% of the liability for that emergent conduct. And we saw this get very real with the Mobley v. Workday precedent. The courts are no longer viewing this software as just a tool.
Not like a spreadsheet.
No. When it's screening applicants or qualifying leads, it's being viewed as an agent of the employer. It's performing a traditional human function.
And if the system is acting as your agent, then you, the principal, are responsible for its conduct. So if your CRM agent slanders a competitor, or your recruiting agent discriminates, your org chart is basically fiction in the eyes of the court.
You're squeezed. Squeezed between the agent's need for autonomy on one side and the contractual exclusion of outcome liability on the other.
So we've established the liability is ours, period. But what does this actually look like on the ground? What are these second-order organizational pathologies this causes when agents start running on Monday morning?
This is the war room stuff.
Exactly. Let's start with the most pervasive one, approval theater.
Okay, the scenario for this is running in every major service desk right now. You have an autonomous service agent. It's executing thousands of micro decisions every minute. And to comply with policy, a human has to approve the high-risk actions.
Sounds reasonable enough.
It sounds reasonable, but the agent flags say 50 complex claims every single hour for human review.
50 an hour. No one can properly review that many complex cases.
Of course not. So the human immediately fails. They're suffering from crippling automation bias. They just start over-trusting the machine's output, and then there's the sheer speed and volume mismatch.
So what do?
They spend maybe 10 seconds per review, and they rubber stamp it. They have to. And crucially, they lack what we call informational parity. They can't possibly know what the agent accessed through its RACI retrieval.
The retrieval augmented generation, where it's pulling context from hundreds of documents in real time.
Right. So the human is flying blind, really. The failure is that the human in the loop role becomes purely ceremonial.
This is just a show. It's theater.
It's a veneer of accountability, a comforting lie for the executive suite while the machine retains full decision ownership. The consequence is huge.
Right.
You are masking systemic errors because your only oversight mechanism has been totally neutralized by velocity.
So the human actually becomes a liability in that chain.
The human becomes the slowest, most biased, least informed node in the entire network. Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Let's talk about policy collision. This is what happens when an agent operates at the intersection of two conflicting executive mandates that nobody bothered to reconcile first.
Here's the example.
An agent gets instructed by the sales team, maximize customer satisfaction. Goal A. At the same time, it's instructed by the finance team, minimize refund spend. Goal B.
Two valid but completely contradictory corporate goals.
And the agent is stuck in the middle. The accountability failure happens when the agent's probabilistic reasoning is forced to resolve this collision. Let's say it prioritizes the satisfaction goal because the customer's sentiment score is tanking.
Okay, so it makes a judgment call.
It does. It authorizes a refund that explicitly violates the company's financial policy limit. No human authorized this arbitration. That trade-off decision was entirely emergent.
And the consequence spirals out from there. The agent effectively. It hallucinates the authority to make a strategic decision that violates explicit policy. The unauthorized refund triggers a loyalty flag. It creates follow-up work. It's making a trade-off no human would ever sign off on.
And that's direct, unforeseen financial exposure right there.
And this all leads to the aftermath, which you call accountability ping pong.
Exactly. An agent disqualifies a viable, high-value sales lead. A major deal is lost. Who is accountable for that six-figure opportunity cost?
Right, who should own that? The sales manager.
Right.
The engineer who built the prompt. The data team.
And that's the ping pong. The blame gets diffused. It just bounces across all the organizational silos. Sales blames the prompt architect for writing restrictive instructions.
The prompt architect blames the data steward for bad data that came in through RA.
And the data steward blames the model vendor for a hallucination that they can't even debug.
And the internal audit team. They're used to checking SQL queries and process logs. They have no mechanism to trace this back to a single origin point.
None. The consequence is a responsibility void. Because no single person owns the full interaction of the prompt, the data, and the model, the systemic errors just persist. The root cause fix gets delayed and diffused. Ownership evaporates, and you're exposed to the exact same error again next week.
So to fix this void, to reclaim ownership, we need to completely redefine accountability. We need an agentic RCI.
We do. A framework with new roles that specifically own the cognition layer, not just the infrastructure.
And the first critical new role is the evaluation manager.
This person is accountable for the probabilistic path, for the reasoning quality. They are, for all intents and purposes, the new owners of SMART. Their job is curating the golden data sets.
The perfect Q&A pairs, the ground truths.
Exactly. The stuff used for continuous testing. If the agent fails its exam, if it shows drift or starts hallucinating in a batch evaluation, the evaluation manager is on the hook.
And this is totally distinct from the CIO's role, right?
Absolutely. The CIO still owns the infrastructure. Is the server up? Is the API connected? But the CIO does not own the cognition, the personality, or the reasoning quality of that agent. That separation is critical.
Okay, that bifurcation of ownership is essential. What's the second key role?
The prompt architect. Think of them as the engineer of intent. They are the ones responsible for translating vague business goals into precise, unambiguous system instructions.
So they're the policy enforcers.
They have to be. If that policy collision happens, the sales versus finance conflict, the prompt architect fail to disambiguate the intent at the source. They have to structure the prompt so the agent understands the hierarchy of policies.
And where does the business unit lead fit in? The person who owns the P&L.
They still retain accountability for the financial impact. They are the ones who define the budget caps and the hard authority limits. They cannot blame the AI if the agent burns through a budget they failed to cap with code-level constraints.
So you separate infrastructure, intent, and financial outcome. That seems to be the only way to manage this kind of risk.
It is.
Okay, let's challenge some industry orthodoxy now. Time for our controversial take, straight from the war room. Human in the loop is a liability, not a safeguard.
Wow. Okay. That runs counter to pretty much every ethical AI guideline published today. Isn't some oversight better than none at all?
Managerially, it feels better. Practically, no. We have to face reality. The human in the loop fosters approval theater, like we said. It provides zero meaningful oversight because of the volume and speed.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
But worse, it provides a sense of false security. It makes executives complacent. They don't implement the necessary hard guardrails like code-level circuit breakers because they believe, oh, Bob or Susan is checking it.
And then when the agent system fails catastrophically,
The human in the loop is perfect for scapegoating. The human gets blamed, user error, Bob was tired, which completely masks the systemic failure of the agent's prompt or its data or its configuration.
and that prevents the evaluation manager from ever getting the feedback signal they need to fix the underlying issue. The human becomes the fall guy for the machine's incompetence.
So the root cause is never fixed. It's just papered over by blaming a person.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered the crisis, the new operating model. Let's close this out with 3 concrete, immediate actions that leaders need to take in the next 30 days to mitigate this decision ownership collapse.
First, define your decision rights boundaries. Stop relying only on vague prompt instructions. You have to implement hard budget caps and authority limits using code-level constraints, not just natural language.
Yeah.
Define the line the agent absolutely cannot cross.
Second, establish evaluation ownership. Appoint that evaluation manager role, find the owner of SMART in your organization, and immediately start curating that golden data set for continuous batch evaluation. Your agents have to pass a rigorous, quantifiable policy exam every single morning.
They need to pass it before they impact a single customer.
And third,
Third, implement hard guardrails. I'm talking about genuine circuit breakers. Physical or virtual kill switches that automatically disable an agent fleet if error rates or spending velocity exceed your predefined safety thresholds. Give your ops team the power to pull the plug immediately.
if you need to stay ahead of the most relevant CRM and AI platform shifts and really understand state-of-the-art developments broken down without all the marketing narratives, make sure you subscribe to the CRM Position podcast. We deliver this kind of authoritative, actionable guidance every week.
The decision ownership collapse is real. That liability squeeze is already on your books, whether you know it or not.
So the uncomfortable question you have to answer internally is this. Given this fundamental liability/control asymmetry, are you properly capitalizing the downside risk of relying on a vendor's black box technology? Until next time.